friends, and welcome to Coached by Tara, the podcast where Tara...
Hi, that's me.
...coaches me, hi, I'm Mike, on things, life lessons.
Oh.
Sometimes. Actually, no. We're talking about Twilight, the first book in the Twilight series by Stephanie Meyer. No life lessons today.
This could be a life lesson.
There could be life lessons.
The life lesson is you like Twilight or you're out.
The life lesson is don't eat at Applebee's because they just...
Stop, we're not talking about Applebee's.
Okay, we're not talking about Applebee's. Anyway, we're on episode chapter number 16 of Twilight.
Yes.
But before we get to that,
We will recap chapter 15.
I'm going to recap chapter 15, which was called The Cullens.
The Cullens.
Which is weird because I feel like they weren't super involved in the chapter. But anyway.
But you still got introduced to every single one of them for real.
You're right.
Yes.
Well, not every one of them.
We'll
get to it.
Almost.
So,
everyone.
Bella wakes up and Edward's still there and she's excited, but he changed clothes. Weird flex. Anyway, she sits on his lap in a rocking chair, and that was kind of a weird situation.
I thought I was gonna burp.
Okay, Tara just like leaned away from the microphone and made the craziest face I've ever seen. She was like,
They can't see.
yeah, I know, but you can hear it. You can hear the face.
I thought I was gonna burp, and I didn't
Anyway,
want to do it.
So he's like, yo, do you want to be my parents? And she's like, oh, I'm scared, but not because they're vampires, but because
meeting the parents.
She's meeting the parents, you know.
Kind of
So
scary.
anyway, they have breakfast, and by they I mean Bella. And then she gets ready, and we have a meme in the Twilight universe where she puts on like basically a Mormon outfit, and he's like, "You look indecent,
Utterly
indecent."
Wait, did you read the Discord
About the meme?
Yeah. No, wait.
I put the
I
meme
think
in
it
the
was in
Discord.
spoilers, but it's not a spoiler, so I'm gonna read it
Okay.
because I did not know this. But Diana said, not sure if this qualifies as spoilery, but wait, does Mike not know that Meyer is a practicing Mormon? And Mango said, I thought she was inactive. And Diana said, she at least attends religious events. And I said, wait, I didn't even know that. Like, I didn't know that Stephanie Meyer was a Mormon.
Right. I didn't know that either.
Until now.
Bella's not a Mormon.
No.
Right?
No.
So why would she dress up her character like a Mormon?
Because she doesn't know how to be in...
Because she's living out her fantasy behind this book.
Yeah. I guess so.
She wants a Mormon vampire boy to sweep her off her feet.
I don't know. I don't even know. Anyways, I just had to point that out because I was like...
Thank you, Diana.
I didn't even know that. That's like something I didn't even really truly know.
Didn't know.
I guess I'm not a real fan, I guess.
Fake Twilight fan, podcast is canceled.
Frick. It's done. I'm leaving.
Didn't even finish one book. Oh, Tara just walked out, guys. I guess I'll continue recapping the chapter because I'm here. Oh, wait, Tara came back and she's laughing for some reason. So anyway, they go to meet Edward's family and they roll up to this really beautiful house, 3-story house. And inside is Carlisle and Esme.
Yes.
And Carlisle looking as hashtag Carlisle as you want him to be.
Ooh boy.
Ooh boy. And then Esme's being a mom, you know. And then what's her name?
What?
The
Alice.
Alice. Thank you. I can think of
Oh
Alice.
my god, you don't even know Alice?
Alice kind of like floats up to Bella and kisses her on the cheek, and that makes Edward a little nervous because he's like, was she gonna try to bite her ass, you know? And then Jasper keeps his distance because he's like, he's a newer vampire.
I'm
right?
just like calming the room down, he says.
Right, he's just calming the room down. So anyway, they meet. It goes very well. They seem to like Bella a lot. They want Edward to be happy. We find out that he plays the piano, and he plays this song that's Esme's favorite, and then he plays another one that he wrote for Bella, and Bella says she recognizes it as the song he hums to her from time to time.
Mm-hmm.
And then we find out that...
you remember a lot of details. I've read this book a million times, and I could still be like, I need to read it again.
I'm a detail-oriented person. And then...
Oriented?
Yes.
Okay.
Orientated? Sorry, are you saying the word wrong? Weird.
No.
So then she asks, well, how come Emmett and... I'm a detail-oriented person.
Oriented.
Emmett.
Rosalie.
How come they weren't here? And he's like, well, you know, Emmett's indifferent.
Rosalie
he thinks I'm crazy, but he's indifferent, where she is mad because she doesn't like that she's a vampire and she doesn't want to be a vampire, and she's jealous that you're not a vampire, basically. And so, anyway, he stops playing, and then he starts giving her the tour of the house, and they go upstairs, and there's this gigantic wooden cross. And so then we start going into the backstory of Carlisle, who we find out was a
600 and something.
In 600 something AD.
No, I'm saying,
BC,
oh no,
AD,
yeah.
AD.
No, not 600 years old. He's 362. He's 362 years old, but he was born in like the 1600s.
1600s. I forgot.
Not 600s.
I forgot a one. Sorry. They talk about how he became a vampire and his dad was a preacher, and how he like laid in rotten potatoes until he changed over.
Yeah.
And that's kind of it.
Yeah, that was kind of it.
Tara promised me more lore. This next chapter, chapter 16, which is called
Carlisle.
Carlisle.
So honestly, this chapter just goes into more of like a deep lore, and it's not. I don't think any single part of it is in the book or in the movie. Sorry, this is the book. But I'll have to read. I'll have to go to the end of it to know if any of it truly is it.
Okay.
Chapter 16, Carlisle.
Chapter 16, Carlisle. Tara,
Zaddy.
Are you ready to introduce me to Zaddy? Zaddy Carlisle.
I am.
All right, we'll be right back.
Hey, Michael.
Yes, Tara?
Are you ready to be coached today?
Coach me, Zaddy.
I'm not Zaddy.
You're right. You're mommy.
No.
Coach me, mommy.
No.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Anyway, coach me.
Chapter 16, Carlisle. Like I said, lots of lore, deep lore.
Deep Carlisle lore.
Deep Carlisle lore. So yeah, like at the end of the last chapter, you know.
You ever just sit on your balls on accident?
Considering I do not have balls, no.
Owie.
End of the last chapter, he talked about, you know, how his dad used to be like a monster hunter, basically.
Right.
And like, because they didn't believe.
Well, as a lot of preachers back then probably were.
Yes.
They were witch hunters and
multiple different things.
Yes.
So he hid in the cellar, went in the rotten potatoes for 3 days while he changed, and then he was just like, you know, I expect you have more questions for me. Yeah. Duh. So they head into Carlisle's office, and he just like paused outside the door, and Carlisle probably heard him through the door because they have like supersonic hearing.
Right, because they're vampires.
And he's like invites them in, and they go in, and it's like mostly bookshelves, and like it's basically more books than she's ever seen in a regular library.
Kind of like Beast Castle.
I would assume kind of like that, but a
Maybe
little bit smaller. Yeah. And then he's sitting behind a desk in the room, and he's like, "Oh, what can I do for you guys? You know, what's up? Why are you here?"
Welcome to Dr. Carlisle's office.
Yeah. And Edward's just like, you know, I wanted to show Bella some of our history. Well, it's actually your history. And she's like, "Sorry, we didn't mean to disturb you." And he said, "Not at all. Where are you going to start?" And Edward's like, "The Wagoner," which I don't really know what that is. And then it says, "Just so you know, every time he touched me," because he turned her around to look at something. And it says, "Every time he touched me, in even the most casual way, my heart had an audible reaction. It was even more embarrassing with Carlisle there." Because they can...
Carlisle totally knows.
They can hear their heart beating.
I'm so fucking turned on.
Well, plus, like, she's the only heart beating in the whole house.
Their hearts don't beat?
No. They're like stone, babe.
What?
Everything's like frozen in there.
What?
Okay, I guess we'll get to that later.
I don't know that that's normal vampire lore, but okay.
Okay, anyways.
That's why I was confused by it, because like...
Well, like, they wouldn't hear... I don't know. They're hearing the blood pumping through it. They don't got the blood.
Right, I guess.
They only have venom going through their veins.
Venom?
Yeah, like vampire venom.
I think most vampires in traditional vampire
I know,
lore
but this isn't traditional.
have blood, and a stake through the heart kills them because the heart works still. So that's why I was confused,
you're confused.
by
Sorry.
that. And you were like, it's made of stone, silly.
Well, I mean,
you should know.
They're like hard and cold, you know?
Yeah, I know. I get it now.
They're hard and cold.
Venom.
Venom, baby.
What does that mean? Venom?
Like the poison?
Well, but like snakes have their own venom.
But vampires have their own venom. They do. Okay. How do you think they turn other vampires into vampires?
Well, normally it's the difference between sucking all their blood and leaving some behind.
Yeah.
Is normally what it is.
Okay, well, you'll learn more later then, I guess.
I'll learn more about this venom.
Okay, anyways. So Edward's pulling her to the far left side of the room, and in front of her was a small square oil painting in a plain wooden frame. I don't think that matters, but it's just like,
I was wondering if this chapter, because it's probably going to be less of them just having a conversation, and it's the last 5 or so chapters have been just them having a conversation. If you were going to stumble a little bit,
I'm stumbling.
I'm like, oh, what's important?
I don't know what's important. Nothing. Well, especially because a lot of times I fly through this chapter because it is important, but you just learn bits and pieces of information that's needed, and a lot of it's just there, and that's obviously why they didn't put it in the movie. But I guess, the details of that doesn't matter, but all you can see in the picture is basically a city. And he tells her that it's London in the 1650s, or the London of Carlisle's youth. So that's why it's important. And Edward's like, will you tell the story? And Carlisle's like, I would, but I'm actually running a little bit late. The hospital called this morning. Dr. Snow is taking a sick day. Besides, you know the stories now as well as I do. It says, it was a strange combination to absorb. The everyday concerns of the town doctor stuck in the middle of a discussion of his early days in 17th century London. It was also unsettling to know that he spoke aloud only for my benefit. Because if you remember before, Carlisle just thinks it, and then Edward sometimes just speaks it or whatever. But whatever.
He just knows.
Yes. So then Carlisle leaves. So now Bella's like, okay, well, what happened after he turned, after Carlisle turned in the potatoes. After the potatoes, he was like a stew in there. Potatoes and that's it. You're laughing at me.
It was funny.
He was stewing. He was changing over.
I mean, stews are normally there's a broth and there's...
Maybe he was seeping things out. I don't know. Gross. Anyways.
Venom.
Yeah. Maybe. So then Edward says, when he knew what he had become, he tried to rebel against it. He tried to destroy himself, but that's not easily done. So this basically just picks right back off.
Right.
Where we left off. And she says, how? I didn't mean to say it aloud, but the word broke through my shock. He jumped from great heights, Edward told me, his voice impassive. He tried to drown himself in the ocean, but he was young to the new life and very strong. It was amazing that he was able to resist feeding while he was still so new. The instinct is more powerful then. It takes over all of your senses. But he was so repelled by himself that he had the strength to try to kill himself with starvation. Is that possible? My voice was faint. No, there are very few ways we can be killed. I opened my mouth to ask, but he spoke before I could. So he grew very hungry and eventually weak. He strayed as far as he could from the human populace, recognizing that his willpower was weakening too. For months, he wandered by night, seeking the loneliest places, loathing himself. One night, a herd of deer passed his hiding place. He was so wild with thirst that he attacked without a thought. His strength returned, and he realized there was an alternative to being the vile monster he feared. Had he not eaten venison in his former life? Over the next few months, his new philosophy was born. He could exist without being a demon. He found himself again. So kind of a cool, cool backstory, because he obviously suffered, but it wasn't just oh, I decided to be this way. It was
right. He's like,
It was
wow,
like-
I ate venison before. Like,
It was
just
like
eating
a-
animals like it was before.
Yeah, it was like a humanity type thing.
Mm-hmm.
He began to make better use of his time. He'd always been intelligent and eager to learn. Now he had unlimited time before him. He studied by night and planned by day. He swam to France and... He swam to France? People swim the channel all the time, Bella, he reminded me patiently. That's true, I guess. It just sounded funny in that context. Go on. Swimming is easy for us. Everything is easy for you, I griped. He waited, his expression amused. I won't interrupt again, I promise. And he chuckled darkly and finished his sentence. Because technically we don't need to breathe. No, you promised. Do you want to hear the story or not? He says. She's like, you can't spring something like that on me and then expect me not to say anything. Like, hello, how the heck can you just not breathe? And he's like, okay, fine. And she's like, you don't have to breathe. And he says, no, it's not necessary. Just a habit, he shrugged. How long can you go without breathing? Indefinitely, I suppose. I don't know. It gets a bit uncomfortable being without a sense of smell. Because, like, they breathe and it brings up the senses, obviously.
Right.
A bit uncomfortable, I echoed. I wasn't paying attention to my expression, but something in it made him grow somber. The silence lengthened. His features were immobile as stone. What is it? I whispered. I keep waiting for it to happen. For what to happen? I know that at some point, something I tell you or something you see is going to be too much, and then you'll run away from me, screaming as you go. He smiled half a smile, but his eyes were serious. I won't stop you. I want this to happen because I want you to be safe, and yet I want to be with you. The two desires are impossible to reconcile. He trailed off, staring at my face, waiting. I'm not running anywhere, I promised. We'll see, he said, smiling again. So, go on, Carlisle was swimming to France. So then he's, like, back into telling the story about Carlisle. Basically, they're, like, going around the room, and they have, like, different paintings and, like, pieces from their from his past. And they're, like, at a canvas next, I guess. And he says Carlisle swam to France and continued through Europe to study at different universities there. At night, he studied music, science, medicine, and found his calling, his penance in saving human lives. So, like, he also felt like a strong need to save human lives because he's like, well, I'm not going to be a monster and take human lives. I'm going to help save them. I can't adequately describe the struggle. It took Carlisle 2 centuries of torturous effort to perfect his self-control. Now he is all but immune to the scent of human blood, and he is able to do the work he loves without agony. So can you imagine? It took him 200 years of his 360
Well, that's what I was just thinking.
year life to get used to it.
When you started describing it, like I was like, wait a minute. I never thought about the fact that he's a surgeon. How does he do that?
Yeah.
Like without wanting to just drink.
Because he's been alive for so goddamn long. And he just says, like, you know, he finds a great deal of peace there at the hospital, blah, blah, blah. He was studying in Italy, which the picture was like, it looked, she thought in her head it was Greek, like a Greek picture, but it was actually a picture of Italy.
Right, because he's the vampire that she read about from Italy. I know. I said that. I called that.
He was studying.
I'm
well,
smart.
no, yeah. He was studying in Italy when he discovered the others there. They were much more civilized and educated than the wraiths of the London sewers. So he found other vampires there that were not like just savages, like coming out of the sewers at night and tormenting people.
Yes.
So then he's like pointing at the picture and showing who is who in the picture. Salamino was greatly inspired by Carlisle's friends. He often painted them as gods, so that's the person that painted them. Ero, Marcus, Caius, he said, indicating the other 3 people in the picture, 2 black-haired and 1 snowy white, nighttime patrons of the arts. What happened to them, I wondered. They're still there, he shrugged, as they have been for who knows how many millennia. Carlisle stayed with them for only a short time, just a few decades. He greatly admired their civility, their refinement, but they persisted in trying to cure his aversion to his natural food source, as they called it. They tried to persuade him, and he tried to persuade them, but to no avail. At that point, Carlisle decided to try out the new world. He dreamed of finding others like himself. He was very lonely. So
they wanted to have him start feeding on humans.
Exactly.
Maybe in a more controlled way than the savages.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, no, I want you guys to start feeding on animals.
And it just didn't
like,
work out.
No.
Right.
Can I say something?
Yes.
I think the reason that we're being told this is that, we're naming these characters, is that at some point, some of them or some of their tribe are going to show up.
You might be right. It might not be in this book.
Fair.
So he didn't find anyone for a long time. So he's traveling towards the new world.
Right.
But as monsters become the stuff of fairy tales, he found he could interact with unsuspecting humans as if he were one of them. He began practicing medicine, but the companionship he craved evaded him, and he couldn't risk familiarity. When the influenza epidemic hit, he was working nights in a hospital in Chicago. He'd been turning over an idea in his mind for several years, and he had almost decided to act. Since he couldn't find a companion, he would create one. He wasn't absolutely sure how his own transformation had occurred, so he was hesitant, and he was loath to steal anyone's life the way his had been stolen. It was in that frame of mind that he found me. There was no hope for me. I was left in a ward with the dying. He had nursed my parents and knew I was alone. He decided to try. His voice, nearly a whisper now, trailed off. He stared unseeingly through the west windows. I wondered which images filled his mind now. Carlisle's memories or his own. I waited gently. And so we've come full circle, he concluded. Have you always stayed with Carlisle then, I wondered? Almost always. He put his hand lightly on my waist and pulled me with him as he walked through the door. I stared back at the wall of pictures, wondering if I would ever get to hear all the other stories. Almost. He sighed, seeming reluctant to answer. Well, I had a typical bout of rebellious adolescence, about 10 years after I was born, created, whatever you want to call it. I wasn't sold on his life of abstinence, and I resented him for curbing my appetite, so I went off on my own for a time. Really, I was intrigued rather than frightened, as perhaps I should have been. And then he's like taking her up the next flight of stairs to the next part of the house. And he's like, that doesn't repulse you? And she's like, no. And he's like, why not? And she's like, well, I guess it sounds reasonable.
Yeah, I guess it's fine. You just
we're eating humans. No big deal.
Because you didn't agree with your dad.
Right.
I mean, that's fine, dude.
No big deal. And then he said, from the time of my new birth, I had the advantage of knowing what everyone around me was thinking, both human and non-human alike. That's why it took me 10 years to defy Carlisle. I could read his perfect sincerity and understand exactly why he lived the way he did. So he was like, dang, I don't have a good reason. I don't have a good reason to go. Dang it. It took me only a few years to return to Carlisle and recommit to his vision. I thought I would be exempt from the depression that accompanies a conscience. Because I knew the thoughts of my prey, I could pass over the innocent and pursue only the evil. If I followed a murderer down a dark alley where he stalked a young girl, if I saved her, then surely I wasn't so terrible. I shivered, imagining only too clearly what he described. The alley at night, the frightened girl, the dark man behind her, and Edward as he hunted, terrible and glorious as a young god, unstoppable. Would she have been grateful, that girl, or more frightened than ever before?
You could say he was kind of a vigilante.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Almost like a Batman.
Oh, yes, indeed. That's what's kind of funny about Midnight Sun is you know more about that side because you're like hearing more of his thoughts.
Mm-hmm. So he tells you a little bit more about how he's Batman.
Mm-hmm.
And Robert Pattinson.
Yeah, is also Batman.
Also Batman.
And also
Edward.
Yes.
Also
comes full circle.
He's in the movie where he's in the Twin Towers when they go down.
Rip.
At the end.
That's called Remember Me.
Oh, yeah, thank you. I couldn't remember it. Couldn't remember him.
Rip. But as time went on, he felt that he still was a monster because he's like, I'm still eating humans. Like, this is not good. Like, even though he felt he was only, like, he knew he was only eating people that were truly despicable and evil. Like, he says, I couldn't escape the debt of so much human life taken, no matter how justified. So he went back to Carlisle and Esme.
Yeah, Batman doesn't kill people.
Nope.
Or so he says.
Yeah. I don't
Sometimes, like, he runs people over with his car and shit.
It's like okay, they might be dead. They might be dead. Dude. So then they finally come to the last door in the hallway, and it's his room.
Oh my God, are we going to go in Edward's room?
Yes. And he opens the door.
Go in Edward's room.
And
hanging out in Edward's room. I just wrote that.
Thank you so much.
For you and this episode. You're welcome, everybody.
You're welcome.
I said you're welcome. Okay. Anyway, they're going into Edward's
thank
room.
you, I guess. I didn't want to say thank you.
You could have thanked me. I mean, it's fine.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So he opens the door to his room, and his room faces south with a big wall-sized window, like the room in the first floor. Like so, it's like basically a bigger window. And she's like, "Oh, the whole back side of the house must be glass, like because it faces like the landscape, like of the river and the forest.
It's like something I'd make in Minecraft.
Yeah."
I'm like, oh, I want to see the horizon.
Yeah. This one looks out to the Olympic mountain range. Their house does. And then it says the western wall is completely covered with shelf after shelf of CDs. His room was better stocked than a music store. In the corner was a sophisticated looking sound system, the kind I was afraid to touch because I'd be sure to break something. There was no bed, only a wide and inviting black leather sofa. The floor was covered with a thick golden carpet, and the walls were hung with heavy fabric in a slightly darker shade. Good acoustics, I guess? He chuckled and nodded. So he's like, has his room set up so he can just listen to music all the time. He's a music guru.
On his weird leather couch.
Yeah, I mean, they don't have to sleep.
It's like a casting couch.
Yeah, it is. I'm picturing it as that now. So then
I just can't believe how accepting you were of that joke.
I'm picturing.
You're like, yeah, casting couch, no problem.
Yeah, I'm just like picturing it as that. And she asks like how he has it organized, and he has it his music organized by year and then by personal preference within the year time frame.
That seems like not ideal because then like what if you forget your preference?
It'd be so easy. I'm sure it would be so easy. Like he could probably scan all the titles so quickly.
Like, okay, 1900.
He's had a lot of time to think about this.
I know. Okay. So 1995, and he's like, did I like Nirvana's album over this album? And then he's got to like look through. I don't know.
I don't know.
He should have just gone alphabetical.
Probably.
Yeah.
And
also, if you're sitting there going, Mike Nirvana didn't have an album to come out in 95.
I almost did say that.
You know what? You just shut it, okay?
Okay. Anyways, he is looking at her kind of peculiarly, and she's like, what? And he was like, I was prepared to feel relieved, having you know about everything, not needing to keep secrets from you. But I didn't expect to feel more than that. I like it. It makes me happy. He shrugged, smiling slightly. I'm glad, I said, smiling back. I'd worried that he might regret telling me these things. It was good to know that that wasn't the case. And he's like still looking at her, and she's like, are you still waiting for me to go to run to the hills, running and screaming? And he's like, yeah. He's basically like, yeah. And she says, I hate to burst your bubble, but you're really not as scary as you think you are. I don't find you scary at all, actually. I lied casually. He stopped, raising his eyebrows in blatant disbelief. Then he flashed a wide, wicked smile. You really shouldn't have said that, he chuckled. He growled, a low sound in the back of his throat, his lips curled back over his perfect teeth. His body shifted, suddenly half-crouched, tense like a lion about to pounce. I backed away from him, glaring. You wouldn't. I didn't see him leap at me. It was much too fast. I only found myself suddenly airborne, and then we crashed onto the sofa, knocking it into the wall. All the while, his arms formed an iron cage of protection around me. I was barely jostled, but I was still gasping as I tried to right myself up. He wasn't having that. He curled me into a ball against his chest, holding me more securely than iron chains. I glared at him in alarm, but he seemed well in control. His jaw relaxed as he grinned, his eyes bright only with humor. You were saying, he growled playfully, that you are a very, very terrifying monster, I said, my sarcasm marred a bit by my breathless voice. Much better, he approved. I struggled. Can I get up now? He just laughed. Can we come in? A soft voice sounded out in the hall. Like, ooh, they're on the couch. Someone's gonna come in. Looks a little weird.
Edward, please don't have sex with her with your uncontrollableness. Also, saying she was more secure than in iron chains, that just was weird to me.
I know.
I definitely did a face, you know.
An iron cage.
Oh, did you say is it a cage?
It's holding me more securely than iron chains. You're right. This says both.
Iron chain. Does she know what iron chains feel like?
I don't know.
Does Bella got a weird side?
I don't know. I honestly don't. Anyways. So then
shit, I couldn't think of the joke I wanted. Like, sticks and stones may break her bones, but whips and chains excite her.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Is that a joke or is that a freaking song? It's a song.
It's a freaking song joke.
Oh, okay. She was gonna like free herself, but Edward just like adjusted her so that she was conventionally seated on his lap. And then Alice and Jasper came in the room. And she was kind of embarrassed because her cheeks got a little flushed, just as they burned. But Edward was at ease. Alice seemed to find nothing unusual in our embrace. She walked, almost danced, her movements were so graceful, to the center of the room, where she folded herself sinuously onto the floor. Jasper, however, paused at the door, his expression a trifle shocked. He stared at Edward's face, and I wondered if he was tasting the atmosphere with his unusual sensitivity. It sounded like you were having Bella for lunch, and we came to see if you would share, Alice announced. I stiffened for an instant until I realized Edward was grinning. Whether at her comment or my response, I couldn't tell. Sorry, I don't believe I have enough to spare, he replied, his arms holding me recklessly close. Actually, Jasper said, smiling despite himself as he walked into the room, Alice says there's going to be a real storm tonight, and Emmett wants to play ball. Are you game? The words were all common enough, but the context confused me. I gathered that Alice was a bit more reliable than the weatherman, though. Edward's eyes lit up, but he hesitated. Of course you should bring Bella, Alice chirped. I thought I saw Jasper throw a quick glance at her. Do you want to go? Edward asked me, excited, his expression vivid. Sure, I couldn't disappoint such a face. Where are we going? We have to wait for Thunder to play ball. You'll see why, he promised. Will I need an umbrella? They all three laughed aloud. Will she? Jasper asked Alice. No, she was positive. The storm will hit over town. It should be dry enough in the clearing. Good then, the enthusiasm in Jasper's voice was catching naturally. I found myself eager rather than scared stiff. Let's go see if Carlisle will come. Alice bounded up into the door in a fashion that would break any ballerina's heart. Like you don't know, Jasper teased, and they were set swiftly on their way. So they all have like their little quirks, because like she already knows like what's gonna happen in the future.
Right.
He's like whatever. He's like whatever. Like you already know he's coming.
Right.
What will we be playing? I demanded. You will be watching, Edward clarified. We will be playing baseball. I rolled my eyes. Vampires like baseball? It's the American pastime, he said with mock solemnity. I can't say that word.
Mock solemnity?
Solemn.
Mock solemnity.
I can't say it. The word solemnity.
Solemnity.
That's the last line in the book.
In the book. The book's done.
Yeah, it's done.
Mock solemnity. That's the end of the book, ladies and gentlemen.
Solemnity. I can't say it.
Solemnity.
You know what I mean, though.
Yeah.
American pastime. That's all he says.
Mock solemnity.
No. Okay, we're done.
All right. Wow.
Anyway, it's pretty crazy, huh?
Yeah. So we learned more about Carlisle.
Yes. We just learned more about like how it all got started.
Yeah. We learned about Edward's chain arms, iron chains. And that we're going to play some baseball. But they need lightning to play.
They need thunder to play. That's what they
Oh,
said.
that makes more sense. Okay,
That's what they
I
said.
get it though. It's because they hit the ball so fucking hard. It's really loud. I get it now. Okay,
Didn't they just say that though?
No, they did. I just misunderstood. I thought you.
Oh yeah, we have to wait for thunder to play ball.
I thought it was the lightning, and I was like, are they gonna get struck by lightning? What's the? But no, the thunder makes sense because they're gonna hit the ball so damn hard that they need the thunder to mask it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. All right. I figured that out.
They're gonna play ball.
Yay! That's fun. Okay, so we learned quite a bit today.
Yes, we did.
And
what do you think's gonna happen next?
We learned it with mocking
Stop, okay.
solemnity.
What do you think's gonna happen next?
Well, I think they're gonna play ball, but Emmett's gonna be there, and I'm assuming
Excuse
Rosalie
me.
Rosalie will be there too.
Yes, I think so.
So maybe there's gonna be some tension there.
Maybe.
But I think that Carlisle is gonna hit like a grand slam home run.
Yeah, he is.
Oh,
I'm just
Tara
kidding.
winked at me when she said that. By the way, everybody. But yeah, I don't know. I still don't know. It sounds like
I just want to tell you that this next chapter, it's the crux of the book. Things start to get a little wacky.
Here's my prediction.
No, now there's no more prediction.
With you saying that, here's
no,
my prediction.
I don't want to do.
Here's my prediction.
No, I was
solemnity.
I was just telling you so that we can go into the next chapter. And that's it. No
But
more
here's the
predictions.
prediction.
No more
Are you ready?
predictions. Okay, fine.
These other vampires that they're talking about showing up are going to show up at the baseball game.
What? Which ones?
The ones that Edward said he was going to be in the last chapter. He said he was going to be more, protective, and he didn't want her to think he was nuts.
Okay.
So they're going to show up because they're gonna be like, that's not thunder, that's baseball smacks.
I never said anything.
That's vampire baseball smacks.
Dang, you guessed so well. Other people say that too. Like in the spoilers that you can't see, they're like, my guess is so well. It's so weird. Like, but yeah, we'll see what happens.
Well, I wouldn't have guessed that if you wouldn't have said the crux.
I know. Dang it.
But it makes sense that like that's a pretty normal story trope for like people to be having like a good time and then the bad people to show up for the first time. So. Well,
we don't know that they're bad. It's just like the crux at the start of something different.
Okay, here's what I'll say. Yes, we don't know they're bad. I'm assuming they are because we haven't gotten any other kind of conflict in this book yet. That's going to be like, and I think it's too early for the Jacob stuff because we don't really know enough about him. And I think it's got
The book is just so predictable, isn't it?
I don't know if it's predictable. I just think I pay attention.
Yeah, you do. Too much attention.
Well, Tara, thank you so much for coaching me today.
You're welcome.
I had a great time.
Me too.
And I hope you understand that was not done with mock solemnity.
Fine.
When I said that.
Yep.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.